Even Tucker Carlson, who has never held back, was incredulous after learning startling information about Barack Obama. Obama's presidency is remembered by many as pioneering and monumental, but unspoken facts have persisted until now. Tucker's in-depth investigation into his past exposed a side of Obama that mainstream media won't dare touch. Even Carlson is disbelieving this secret. And how may it alter the perception of Obama's legacy? Watch as we reveal the specifics of this startling discovery and examine why so many individuals doubt what they believe to be accurate. Obama's Iran deal controversy. The Iran nuclear deal, officially known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, which was signed in 2015, was one of the most controversial aspects of Obama's presidency. Critics contend that the agreement strengthened Iran's regional aspirations, even if its goal was to stop Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons by removing economic sanctions in return for nuclear limitations. Interestingly, there have been reports that the Obama administration, including then Secretary of State John Kerry, may have obstructed FBI investigations into Iranian agents to keep the agreement intact. This claimed shadow amnesty program allegedly shielded a large number of Iranian offenders, which resulted in the termination of several investigations about Iran. Tucker Carlson's reaction. During an open discussion with comedian and political analyst Dave Smith, Tucker Carlson expressed his surprise at the apparent level of Obama administration meddling in the FBI's Iran-related operations. Known for his straightforward style, Carlson emphasized the threats to national security that such meddling could present, casting doubt on whether important choices were being made more for political reasons than for protecting the United States. He also criticized the mainstream media, asking why they weren't covering this vital topic more vigorously. Was it careless journalism or deliberate repression? Carlson maintained that the public should be fully informed about all government transactions, primarily involving clandestine operations and foreign enemies. His remarks struck a chord with people dubious of government overreach, igniting additional discussions over political involvement in aspects of national security. With his trademark wit, Carlson cautioned that disregarding such disclosures could create a risky precedent for the next administration. Obama's early political rise. Charisma, astute positioning, and the capacity to bridge ideological divides allowed Barack Obama to soar to prominence in American politics. He started his career in Illinois, where he was a state senator from 1997 to 2004, and established a reputation as a perceptive legislator who could handle difficult situations. He changed the game with his keynote speech at the 2004 Democratic National Convention, captivating audiences with his message of development and unity. He was suddenly well known nationwide and seen as the Democratic Party's future. His book, The Audacity of Hope, further solidified his reputation as a visionary leader. Amid economic turmoil and mounting discontent with the Bush administration, Obama's hope and change theme resonated strongly with voters by 2008. His historic election as the first African-American president was an electoral triumph and marked a turning point in American politics and culture. Benghazi attack and aftermath. Among the most contentious events of the Obama administration are the sad events that transpired in Benghazi, Libya on September 11, 2012. 4 Americans, including Ambassador Chris Stevens, were killed in the attack on the U.S. consulate, raising concerns about security lapses right away. Some said that officials misrepresented the incident as a spontaneous reaction to an anti-Islamic movie, while others accused the administration of first downplaying the role of Islamic terrorists. As leaked emails revealed an attempt to manage the political damage before the 2012 election, this dispute grew more intense. Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State, memorably responded to the congressional hearings by asking, "What difference at this point does it make?" a catchphrase that her critics used as a rallying cry. In addition to intensifying party disputes, the tragedy sparked broader worries about American foreign policy, security readiness, and how to strike a balance between openness and minimizing political harm during emergencies. IRS targeting scandal. A political conflagration broke out in 2013 when the IRS acknowledged that it had heightened its examination of conservative and Tea Party-affiliated organizations. Under the Obama administration, what was first described as a bureaucratic error swiftly turned into charges of intentional political bias. According to congressional investigations, many of these organizations have been subjected to intrusive inquiry about their tax-exempt status and undue delays. The controversy increased public mistrust of federal agencies and resulted in the resignation of the acting IRS commissioner. While some maintained that the problem was more about systemic inefficiencies than overt political sabotage, others saw it as evidence of weaponized bureaucracy. Conservative organizations saw the dispute as an instance of selective suppression, which further heightened discussions over First Amendment rights and government overreach. Discussions concerning the boundaries of executive control in federal institutions were forever altered by the occurrence, even though numerous investigations failed to establish a direct connection to White House meddling. Operation Fast and Furious. The Obama administration was beset by a massive controversy that started as an effort to take down Mexico's vicious drug gangs. Between 2009 and 2011, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF, conducted Operation Fast and Furious, which permitted the sale of thousands of firearms to suspected arms traffickers to link them to criminal organizations. However, authorities lost custody of the firearms, and they started to appear at crime scenes, including the murder of U.S. Agent Brian Terry of the Border Patrol. When it was discovered that the Justice Department had misled Congress about its role, the public became increasingly outraged. Attorney General Eric Holder became the first current cabinet member to be charged with contempt of Congress as a result of the consequences. Critics cited the affair as a risky illustration of how well-meaning programs may have devastating outcomes, reinforcing worries about government incompetence and lack of accountability. NSA surveillance revelations. Former National Security Agency, NSA, contractor Edward Snowden disclosed classified documents in 2013 exposing the U.S. government's widespread surveillance on foreign leaders and American individuals. Programs such as PRISM allowed gathering information on online activity, emails, and phone records, often without a warrant. Global indignation followed the revelations, and privacy activists warned of an unprecedented rise of governmental authority. Snowden claimed his actions were for the public good and went to Russia, where he still lives in exile. While some officials recognized the need for improvements, the Obama administration maintained that the monitoring programs were essential counter-terrorism weapons. The USA Freedom Act, which sought to limit mass data gathering, was one of the policy changes that resulted from the controversy, forcing the United States to re-examine its intelligence practices. However, Snowden's revelations had a long-lasting impact on how governments balance security and individual liberties in the digital era, irreversibly changing how the public views digital privacy. Drone warfare and civilian casualties. Drone strikes were a key component of U.S. counterterrorism activities during the Obama administration, when their use was significantly increased. Drones made it possible for accurate, remote-targeted attacks, which eliminated well-known terrorists without endangering American troops, in contrast to typical military operations. However, there was a strategic and moral price for this technological conflict. Significant civilian casualties were reported, which sparked debate over the morality and legality of such attacks. Intense discussions were sparked by the contentious kill list, which permitted the targeted killings of suspected terrorists, including U.S. nationals like Anwar al-Awlaki. Critics, notably human rights organizations, contended that the program created a dangerous precedent for unbridled executive power, while supporters justified it as a necessary evolution in modern warfare. Despite efforts to increase transparency, the entire scope of collateral harm remains unknown. Obama's legacy with drone warfare is complicated. Although it changed counterterrorism tactics, it also raised issues with oversight, accountability, and the long-term effects of remote warfare. Keystone XL pipeline debate. During Obama's presidency, the Keystone XL pipeline plans sparked a heated political dispute over environmental, employment, and energy policies. Republicans and business executives supported the project to move crude oil from Canada's tar sands to refineries in the United States, to promote economic expansion and energy independence. Environmentalists vehemently opposed it, citing the dangers to water supplies and its role in climate change. After years of legal disputes and political squabbling, Obama rejected the pipeline in 2015, citing environmental concerns and the need to switch to greener energy sources. Critics claimed that the decision sacrificed economic prospects for ideological grounds, while climate activists applauded the decision. The pipeline controversy represented the more significant conflict between environmental stewardship and economic growth, which still influences American energy policy today. Relations with Russia. Escalating tensions followed attempts to reset relations with Russia during the Obama administration. Obama's foreign policy strategy was put to the test in 2014 when Russia annexed Crimea and the ensuing conflict in eastern Ukraine. Critics claim the response was too cautious and could have encouraged Russian aggression. Russia was subject to sanctions, although some question how effective they were. Relations were further strained by claims of Russian meddling in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Relations remained strained despite diplomatic attempts, underscoring the complexity of U.S.-Russian relations under Obama's direction. Obamacare and broken promises. Obamacare, often known as the Affordable Care Act, ACA, was one of his most ambitious domestic initiatives. It sought to lower prices and provide Americans with access to health care. However, despite its good intentions, the program was criticized for its problematic launch, escalating costs, and limited provider options. Obama's well-known claim that, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor, misled many Americans, and as a result of new restrictions, millions of people lost their current coverage. Many middle-class families also had to pay higher rates, and small businesses struggled to keep up with the rising prices. The Affordable Care Act, ACA, expanded the coverage of many uninsured people, but many were dissatisfied with its implementation, which fueled continuing political discussions about health care reform. The rise of ISIS and foreign policy failures. The explosive growth of the Islamic State, ISIS, in Syria and Iraq during Obama's presidency turned into a serious emergency. His 2011 decision to remove American forces from Iraq, according to critics, left a power vacuum that facilitated the rise of ISIS. Furthermore, his administration came under fire for being too inactive in the face of the escalating Islamic danger, even though he had promised to take action against terrorist organizations. Although the United States eventually sent special forces and began airstrikes, the delayed reaction helped ISIS gain more ground. Obama's government had to change its approach to combating terrorism because of the group's ruthless methods and recruitment of foreign soldiers, which raised concerns about international security. US-Cuba relations and controversial diplomacy. By reestablishing diplomatic relations with Cuba in 2014, Obama made history and ended decades of animosity stemming from the Cold War. As a result of the deal, trade and travel restrictions were loosened and embassies were reopened. Critics, however, claim that this action did not result in improved human rights protections for Cuban residents and instead represented a capitulation to an authoritarian dictatorship. Many Cuban exiles in the United States were incensed because they thought Obama's policies made a dictatorship seem legitimate. Some praised the policy change as a diplomatic victory, but others believed it handed Cuba's communist regime too much power without requiring meaningful democratic improvements in exchange. Solyndra scandal and government waste. Obama spent billions of dollars in government cash on green projects as part of his campaign for sustainable energy. The solar energy business, Solyndra, which was given a $535 million loan guarantee by the administration in 2009, was one of the most notorious disasters. The corporation declared bankruptcy in 2011, leaving taxpayers to bear the losses despite early claims of innovation. Because Solyndra executives had connections to the White House, the scandal revealed problems with the government's management of subsidies and sparked worries about crony capitalism. Critics who questioned the efficacy of Obama's green energy plans used the Solyndra debacle as a talking point. Obama's immigration policies and deportation record. Obama presented himself as an immigrant advocate, but his government deported more people than any previous president in American history, more than 3 million people. In addition to prioritizing the deportation of illegal immigrants with criminal histories, his policies, such as the Secure Communities program, also resulted in the removal of several families and nonviolent offenders. Obama also instituted the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA program, which protected certain undocumented immigrants who were brought to the United States as minors. He received acclaim and criticism for this conflicted strategy. Conservatives claimed that his unilateral moves circumvented Congress, while progressives sought more extensive safeguards for immigrants. Throughout his presidency, immigration continued to be one of the most divisive topics. Climate change policies and executive overreach. Obama was an outspoken supporter of climate change action, enacting laws to cut carbon emissions and promoting international accords such as the Paris Climate Accord. Strict environmental regulations enforced by his government on sectors, especially the coal industry, resulted in job losses and economic hardships in states that produce energy. Critics said his policies harmed American energy independence and businesses, while environmentalists praised his efforts. His use of executive orders to circumvent Congress on climate concerns was also viewed by some as an abuse of presidential authority, creating a precedent that other administrations could follow to implement contentious measures without the consent of Congress. Handling of Veterans Affairs Scandal. The Veterans Affairs VA crisis, which exposed that thousands of veterans had to wait a long time for medical attention at VA hospitals, was one of the most damning scandals of Obama's presidency. According to a 2014 inquiry, some VA personnel fabricated documents to conceal the backlog, which resulted in treatment delays and even avoidable fatalities. Although VA Secretary Eric Shinseki resigned as a result of the controversy, many veterans and their families believe that the government had let those who had served the nation down. Problems with care and efficiency remained in the VA system despite reform efforts, undermining public confidence in the administration's capacity to assist veterans of the armed forces. Spying on journalists and the media. The way Obama's justice system handled journalists, especially the way it used surveillance on reporters in national security cases, drew harsh condemnation. It was disclosed in 2013 that the Justice Department had surreptitiously obtained Associated Press reporters' phone records and had been tracking Fox News reporter James Rosen's communications. Media organizations accused the administration of intimidating journalists and suppressing investigative reporting, since these tactics were perceived as an assault on press freedom. The dispute brought to light tensions between the government and the free press during Obama's presidency, even though the administration justified its actions as being required for national security. The Hillary Clinton email scandal and FBI investigation. Obama's former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, was embroiled in one of the most significant scandals during his presidency. Concerns over the security of secret material were raised in 2015 after it was discovered that Clinton had conducted official business using a private email server. The FBI opened an inquiry to determine if she had mishandled sensitive materials. The matter continued to be a significant scandal during the 2016 election, even though FBI Director James Comey finally chose not to suggest criminal charges. Obama openly supported Clinton, claiming that her actions were a mistake rather than a threat to national security. However, the incident fanned allegations of political bias inside federal agencies and undermined public confidence in government transparency. Race relations and the Ferguson riots. Racial tensions in the U.S. increased throughout Obama's presidency, especially after high-profile police shootings of African Americans. Michael Brown was shot in Ferguson, Missouri in 2014, sparking protests and discussions about police brutality around the country. Critics contended that Obama's words exacerbated racial divisions, even if he denounced racial injustice. Tucker Carlson and others charged that by endorsing groups like Black Lives Matter, the Obama administration was fostering an anti-police attitude. Although the Justice Department also discovered pervasive racial prejudice within the Ferguson Police Department, FBI investigations concluded that Brown's execution was justified. Obama failed to strike a balance between law enforcement and communities impacted by police violence, despite efforts to address racial inequities, which resulted in continued unrest across the country. The rise of populism and Obama's role. Obama's presidency brought about a significant shift in the political environment, which paved the way for the emergence of populist movements on both the left and the right. Obama's policies and tone alienated many working-class Americans, especially in the Midwest, even though he won 2 elections with broad coalitions. His advocacy of healthcare reform, environmental laws, and globalism stoked economic concerns in both industrial and rural areas. Tucker Carlson and other experts contend that Obama's leadership fueled the political backlash that resulted in Donald Trump's election in 2016. Obama downplayed the problems of blue-collar workers who felt disregarded by the Democratic Party in favor of progressive topics like identity politics and climate change. Voter mood changed, reshaping American politics and spawning anti-establishment and nationalist movements that still impact elections today. Obama's connection to Reverend Jeremiah Wright. Obama's long-standing affiliation with Reverend Jeremiah Wright became a significant controversy throughout his 2008 presidential campaign. Over 2 decades, Wright, the pastor of Chicago's Trinity United Church of Christ, served as Obama's spiritual guide. But when earlier sermons from 2008 came to light, Wright used divisive language, such as "God damn America," to blame the 9/11 atrocities on American foreign policy. Critics, including Tucker Carlson, questioned Obama's wisdom for keeping a close contact with someone who had such radical beliefs, and the backlash was swift. After standing up for Wright, Obama said he vehemently disagreed with some of his remarks. Obama eventually quit the religion altogether. Nevertheless, conservatives maintained that the Wright incident revealed Obama's covert ideological inclinations and was proof of his radical influences. With a speech on racial relations, which many considered a turning point in his election campaign, he recovered from the issue that almost ended his candidacy. The secret kill list and drone strikes. The existence of a kill list for targeted drone strikes was one of the more disturbing disclosures made during Obama's presidency. Drone warfare increased dramatically during his administration, with the U.S. military and CIA conducting strikes in Afghanistan, Yemen, Pakistan, and Somalia. Obama personally authorized the targeted killings of suspected terrorists, including American citizens like Anwar al-Awlaki in 2011, according to reports. Tucker Carlson and other critics viewed the program as a significant abuse of executive power, despite the administration's defense that it was essential for national security. The drone program caused hundreds of civilian deaths, which infuriated people all over the world. Obama's approach was denounced by several human rights organizations who claimed it circumvented due process and created a risky precedent for succeeding administrations. One of the more contentious facets of Obama's foreign policy is the use of drone strikes, the long-term effects of which are still up for debate. Tucker Carlson's shift in perspective. Tucker Carlson was one of Obama's most outspoken detractors during his presidency, but this wasn't always the case. Carlson, a CNN and MSNBC commentator at the time, was renowned for taking a more moderate stand in the early 2000s. Carlson's opinions, however, drastically changed as Obama's policies developed, especially about foreign policy, immigration, and health care. By the time he joined Fox News in 2009, he had become more anti-Obama, frequently accusing him of deceiving the public. Carlson regularly attacked Obama for his support of identity politics, his economic management, and what he perceived as an effort to undermine American principles. Carlson's reputation as a prominent representative of right-wing populism was solidified over time by his hostility to Obama. Millions of Americans who felt alienated by Obama's progressive initiatives found resonance in his criticisms, which made him one of the most significant conservative pundits of the contemporary age. The secret meetings with big tech. Obama's administration's deep ties to Silicon Valley are among the less well-known features of his presidency. Later, documents showed that White House officials met often with Twitter, Facebook, and Google executives. Critics feared a darker agenda, the use of big tech to sway public opinion, even though these talks were presented as partnerships on innovation and cybersecurity. Tucker Carlson has frequently noted that during Obama's presidency, social media censorship increased, opening the door for further attacks on conservative voices. Social media sites like Facebook and Twitter were accused of censoring news items in the years after Obama's administration, especially those that were critical of Democrats. According to many conservatives, these connections set the stage for later attempts to regulate online speech, a trend that has only gotten more intense in recent years. Tucker Carlson's clash with Obama-era policies. As his presidency went on, one of Obama's most vocal detractors was Tucker Carlson, who frequently criticized his policies on Fox News. Obama's emphasis on identity politics, which he said split Americans along racial and ideological lines, was one of Carlson's main complaints. He regularly criticized Obama's immigration policy, claiming that they gave illegal immigrants precedence over citizens of the United States. Citing the alignment of government agencies and big tech giants with his administration, Carlson further charged Obama with stifling conservative views. Carlson's anti-Obama views helped him amass a sizable conservative following over the years, establishing him as one of the most significant right-wing pundits. Long after Obama left office, his unrelenting criticism of his foreign policy choices, social objectives, and economic policies remained relevant. The rise of Black Lives Matter. Following several high-profile police shootings during Obama's presidency, the Black Lives Matter (BLM) movement attracted widespread attention. Nationwide demonstrations and discussions on policing and racism were spurred by cases such as Michael Brown, 2014, Freddie Gray, 2015, and Trayvon Martin, 2012. Obama urged for police reform while simultaneously expressing condolences for the victims. Tucker Carlson and other critics, meanwhile, charged that he was inflaming racial tensions by disparaging rather than assisting law officers. Carlson maintained that an increase in crime and violent protests resulted from Obama's words, which strengthened anti-police sentiment. Conservatives saw the BLM movement as radical and anti-American, making it one of the most contentious issues in the United States. Obama, however, defended the effort, claiming that systemic inequalities required it. The impact of BLM is still being debated, and both sides have very different opinions. Obama's relationship with Wall Street. Obama presented himself as an advocate for the middle class, but his connections to Wall Street created significant questions. Many people believe that his government prioritized corporate elites over ordinary Americans when it bailed out big banks during the 2008 financial crisis. Timothy Geithner, Obama's Treasury Secretary, assisted in planning the bank bailouts in 2009, which sparked claims that the government was too close to financial institutions. According to critics like Tucker Carlson, many of Obama's top donors were from Wall Street, including executives from J.P. Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs. Obama's administration saw unprecedented profits for Wall Street while many Americans faced house foreclosure and unemployment, despite his pledges to regulate large banks. Conservatives contend that he deceived the working-class voters he purported to serve, and his connection with corporate elites continues to be one of the most contradictory aspects of his presidency. Obama's role in the 2020 election. Obama continued to have a significant role in the 2020 presidential race, working behind the scenes to guarantee Donald Trump's loss, even after he left office in 2017. He openly endorsed Joe Biden and even ran campaigns for him in crucial battleground states, demonstrating his strong support for the candidate. This was rare for a former president, according to Tucker Carlson and other conservatives, who said that Obama's continued political clout demonstrated how firmly he was rooted in Washington. Some even claimed that Obama, serving as a shadow president and influencing important policies, had undue influence over the Biden administration. Leaked reports indicated that Obama was initially doubtful of Biden's capacity to win, which further cast doubt on the unity of the Democratic Party. Obama's endorsement helped galvanize Democratic voters despite these scandals, and his media presence continued to play a significant role in the anti-Trump campaign. Conservatives, however, maintained that his involvement in 2020 was more about preserving his political legacy than assisting Biden. The Obama Netflix and media empire. A lucrative Netflix deal worth an estimated $50 million was inked by Obama and his wife, Michelle Obama, to make movies and documentaries after they left the White House. With a Spotify podcast arrangement, the Obamas further increased their media clout and had a strong platform to influence public opinion. Tucker Carlson and other conservatives attacked these agreements, claiming that Obama was continuing to use popular entertainment to advance a leftist agenda while abusing his position as president for financial gain. In particular, the Netflix agreement sparked worries about media bias because it gave Obama continued direct control over cultural narrative. While American Factory and other efforts were hailed, others were perceived as thinly veiled political propaganda meant to recast his legacy in a more favorable light. Many conservatives think that Obama used his post-presidential years to cement his cultural and ideological influence on future generations, and that these media endeavors demonstrate how closely Hollywood and liberal politics have grown entwined. The third Obama term theory. Whether Biden's presidency constitutes a third Obama term is one of the most hotly contested issues among conservatives. Biden's foreign policy, healthcare, and climate change policies are straightforward extensions of Obama-era programs. According to Tucker Carlson and other detractors, Obama continues to have a great deal of influence behind the scenes, influencing important choices throughout his network of former advisors and aides, many of whom are in high positions within the Biden administration. In one interview, Obama alluded to this effect by saying he would love to have a front man in the White House while overseeing behind-the-scenes operations. This claim stoked rumors that Obama and his supporters were in charge, and Biden was only a symbolic figurehead. Regardless of the validity of this argument, it is inevitable that Obama's political beliefs continue to affect the Democratic Party, and many conservatives continue to be deeply concerned about his shadow effect. The hidden influence of Valerie Jarrett. One of Barack Obama's closest advisors, Valerie Jarrett, has been called the Obama Whisperer, influencing essential issues in the background. She advised everything from international diplomacy to healthcare reform, giving her considerable influence over domestic and foreign policy decisions during his presidency. According to accounts, Jarrett continued to have sway in Washington even after Obama stepped down, especially with the Biden administration. According to some, her ongoing involvement indicates Obama's indirect influence over current policies. Jarrett's fans see her as a symbol of continuity and experience, while others contend that unelected officials like her shouldn't have long-term political influence. After leaving office, Jarrett even moved in with the Obamas, which fueled speculation that the former president continues to influence Democratic strategy significantly. Given her track record of political scheming, many think that Jarrett is still a crucial behind-the-scenes architect who ensures Obama's worldview continues to direct the present administration. The suppressed Libya war narrative. With the justification that it was necessary to stop Muammar Gaddafi's government from committing mass atrocities, Obama and his NATO partners began a military intervention in Libya in 2011. Despite being celebrated as a success initially, the long-term effects were disastrous. As warlords and militant organizations fought for control, Libya fell into anarchy, which fueled a rise in both human trafficking and terrorism. Critics contend that Libya is a failed state as a result of the Obama administration's failure to prepare for the fallout. Nevertheless, the mainstream media hardly ever examined Obama's involvement in destabilizing the area. Some even draw parallels between the intervention and the Iraq War, where the regime change resulted in unanticipated catastrophes. Obama's foreign policy record was ultimately damaged by the Libya mission, especially in the wake of the 2012 Benghazi incident that claimed the lives of 4 Americans, including Ambassador Chris Stevens. Obama eventually acknowledged that his worst mistake was not planning for Libya's post-Gaddafi future, but little accountability ensued, and the country is still ravaged by conflict today. The Yemen War and U.S. support. Support for Saudi Arabia's operation in Yemen was one of Obama's less well-known foreign policy choices. The United States enabled a military operation that resulted in several civilian casualties by giving the Saudis weapons, information, and logistical support. The war turned into one of the worst humanitarian crises in modern history, while being first justified as an effort to curb Iran's influence in the region. There was severe starvation and misery as a result of targeting of hospitals, schools, and infrastructure. Despite the disastrous outcomes, Obama's involvement in escalating the conflict is rarely examined. Arms sales negotiated during his government continued to equip Saudi forces even after he left office, extending the destruction. Critics contend that Obama's decision deliberately disregarded human rights concerns, while others argue it was motivated by the need to preserve strategic alliances. Although Obama's role in starting the conflict is frequently ignored in mainstream discourse, the Yemen crisis continues to be a stain on U.S. foreign policy. Obama's silence on China's human rights abuses. Even though Obama claimed to be a global champion for human rights, he mostly said little about China's repressive practices. Reports surfaced during his presidency of the wholesale incarceration of Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps, but Obama's administration did little to address the issue. Although Hong Kong's persecution of Tibetans and pro-democracy activists also grew more severe, the city's economic links with China appeared to come first. Obama's diplomatic strategy, according to many detractors, put trade agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership ahead of opposing authoritarian atrocities. In contrast to his outspoken criticism of other governments, Obama hardly ever voiced his opposition to China's escalating human rights abuses, even after he left office. Obama was playing a long-term geopolitical game, according to some, while others think his unwillingness to confront China strengthened its authoritarian hold. As China's activities come under closer scrutiny today, Obama's administration's lackadaisical approach to the matter begs the question of how committed he was to human rights worldwide. The unfulfilled promise of closing Guantanamo Bay. Obama's pledge to close the Guantanamo Bay detention center, which had come to represent indefinite detention and violations of human rights, was one of his most well-known campaign pledges. But throughout his reign, the prison remained open despite repeated promises. Despite his pledge to restore moral authority, scores of detainees remained untried when he left office. Obama's failure to close Guantanamo angered both his supporters and detractors, even though he did lower the number of detainees. Some contend that Obama didn't work hard enough to find other answers, although Congress thwarted several of his initiatives. The prison is still in operation today, and some inmates are still detained without following the proper procedures. Obama's inability to abolish Guantanamo serves as a reminder that when faced with administrative and national security obstacles, political pledges frequently fall short. His government attributed it to congressional resistance, but his detractors see it as a sign of unfulfilled promises. The controversial role of Susan Wright in Biden's administration. Obama's former national security advisor, Susan Rice, is still significant in Washington's politics. She was a key advisor under Obama and had a substantial position in the Biden administration, initially as Director of Domestic Policy. Many viewed her nomination as an extension of Obama's power within Biden's inner circle, which caused some people to take notice. Rice's participation in important policy choices, ranging from foreign policy to racial equity programs, sparked conjecture that Obama's political apparatus never really left Washington. According to critics, her close ties to the former president made it challenging to distinguish between her leadership style and that of the incumbent. Given her wealth of expertise, some even believe she may have been a covert candidate for a more excellent office. Some see her as a contentious figure connected to previous foreign policy blunders, such as how she handled the Benghazi attack, while her fans commend her intelligence and strategic thinking. Her continuing tenure in the White House fueled the discussion about Obama's long-term effects. Obama's post-presidency political shadow. Obama has remained active behind the scenes, unlike previous presidents who usually distance themselves from direct political activity. He has endorsed candidates, impacted policy decisions, and shaped Democratic policies through his vast network. He remains active in American politics as his foundation and political endeavors continue to advocate for progressive policies. Many people think that Obama's ideology guides Biden's government, with former Obama administration officials holding essential roles. Obama, according to some conservatives, is essentially leading from behind by directing policy decisions through his supporters. Even his public appearances and speeches give the impression that he was a leader who never really left the political arena. Obama maintains that he is committed to charitable endeavors, but his ongoing involvement in partisan matters suggests otherwise. Obama's influence continues to determine the Democratic Party's course even after he officially left office, regardless of whether one views him as a political puppeteer or a guiding mentor. Tucker's influence on post-Obama political discourse. By questioning the former president's well-constructed image, Tucker Carlson became one of the most significant conservative voices influencing the political climate following Obama. Carlson said that Obama's actions increased government authority, stoked conflict, and strengthened elite institutions at the expense of regular Americans, even though many in the media hailed him as a unifying leader. He regularly analyzed Obama-era policies, including foreign adventures and the Affordable Care Act, showing how they frequently had unforeseen repercussions. Carlson also contributed significantly to the revelation of the media's double standards, emphasizing how Obama's administration was not given the same level of scrutiny as right-wing politicians. His in-depth analyses of economic inequality, racial relations, and mass monitoring challenged the conventional wisdom and influenced a new wave of conservatives. Tucker did more than simply criticize the past by casting doubt on Obama's legacy and highlighting his underappreciated shortcomings. He also contributed to the definition of the ideological conflicts that continued to influence American politics today. Obama's ties to the intelligence community's Trump investigations. According to recently declassified documents, the Obama administration was aware of the intelligence probes into Donald Trump's 2016 campaign early on. According to critics, this raises questions about the possible political weaponization of intelligence services. According to reports, high-ranking officials such as CIA Director John Brennan and former FBI Director James Comey were aware of and actively participated in attempts to investigate Trump's associates under the guise of Russian meddling. More controversially, according to notes from former CIA officers, Obama was briefed on the monitoring and probes before their public release. Skeptics view the investigations as politically driven attempts to discredit a competing campaign, while supporters assert that they were required to safeguard national security. Tucker Carlson repeatedly brought attention to these disclosures, raising concerns about why the media mainly disregarded Obama's role in authorizing monitoring methods. Many conservatives see the 2016 probes as a model for partisan attacks in the future, and the debate over intelligence services' political involvement is still going strong today. Tucker's challenge to Obama's legacy. Tucker Carlson took a different tact, questioning the meticulously manicured legacy and drawing attention to the administration's underappreciated shortcomings, while most mainstream media characters lauded Obama's leadership. Carlson raised awareness of issues that were overlooked by mainstream media, such as the NSA's extensive surveillance of Americans and the catastrophic response to the Benghazi incident. In his article, he questioned why Obama was exempt from policies that would have sparked constant media anger under a Republican administration. Tucker also revealed the inconsistencies in Obama's rhetoric, including his relentless prosecution of whistleblowers like Julian Assange and Edward Snowden, and his pledges of government transparency. He also looked into how, despite Obama's initial reputation as a unifier, racial relations declined under his leadership. Carlson changed the public's impression of Obama's presidency by defying the media's selective narrative, demonstrating that his legacy wasn't as perfect as many people wanted to think. His incessant probing ensured that history would recall the entire scene, not just the polished one. Obama's media strategy, control versus transparency. Even though Obama positioned himself as an advocate for openness, his government secretly manipulated media perceptions. Despite his frequent criticism of disinformation, records reveal that his White House met secretly with reporters to influence their coverage of significant stories. More whistleblowers were prosecuted under the Espionage Act under his direction than under any other president combined, and the Department of Justice vigorously pursued disclosures. To lay the stage for Big Digital's repression of conservative voices, The government even put pressure on digital corporations to restrict speech. Later, emails and correspondence showed that government organizations collaborated closely with social media companies to censor politically awkward news. Ironically, Obama's worries about disinformation spurred the narrative management system that detractors claim today stifles free expression. These attempts were regularly revealed by Tucker Carlson, who cautioned that Obama's strategy for controlling the media was intended to preserve political power long after he left office, not merely to shape history. Obama's relationship with billionaire donors. Barack Obama had close financial relationships with some of the wealthiest elites in the world, despite portraying himself as a defender of the middle class. During his campaigns, he received enormous donations from Silicon Valley, Hollywood, and Wall Street billionaires. Following that, his administration implemented measures that benefited these funders, such as easing restrictions on tech monopolies and providing bank bailouts. Even though he openly denounced corporate greed, he closed millions of dollars in agreements and speaking appearances after leaving office. His foundation has maintained his political influence, which wealthy contributors largely support. Additionally, foreign funding was involved, since some of his fundraising initiatives sparked debate regarding foreign influence in American politics. This inconsistency was frequently brought to light by Tucker Carlson, who contrasted Obama's image as a man of the people with his close ties to influential people worldwide. When considering the billionaire-backed enterprise that Obama discreetly established, the story of him as an outsider combating corruption starts to fall apart. The quiet removal of Obama's pandemic playbook. Few Democrats address how Obama's pandemic strategy guide was abandoned during his second administration, even though Democrats routinely blamed Donald Trump for America's response to COVID-19. Created to assist future governments in managing worldwide outbreaks, the pandemic playbook was discreetly dropped off priority lists before Trump's inauguration. According to some experts, early containment tactics might have worked better if the rules had been followed. The fact that Obama's government neglected to restock vital national medical supply stocks, leaving the nation susceptible to future health emergencies, is even more concerning. Supporters of Obama assert that his administration was well prepared for the pandemic, while detractors contend that his inaction created a void in the country's preparedness. Tucker Carlson challenged the idea that Obama's team knew everything by pointing out this omission numerous times. The controversy surrounding pandemic preparedness shows that shortcomings are a shared burden rather than the sole responsibility of one government. Tucker's interviews with silenced Obama critics. The fact that Tucker Carlson gave a voice to many who were silenced during Obama's presidency was one of his most significant contributions to political conversation. Carlson gave people who were overlooked by mainstream news a platform, whether they were journalists exposing media bias, whistleblowers exposing government overreach, or former officials exposing wrongdoing. He spoke with people who opposed Obama's policies on military operations, surveillance, and bureaucratic overreach, subjects that many media sources declined to report on critically. His interviews frequently exposed discrepancies between Obama's public statements and his internal decision-making. His reportage of the Benghazi attack, in which he interviewed security experts who disputed the official narrative of the government, is among the most notable examples. He also talked on the effects of Obama's mass deportation tactics, which were given much less attention than they were in previous administrations. By providing these critics a platform, Tucker ensured that Obama's legacy would be examined from all perspectives, not just those that the mainstream media found acceptable. The suppression of anti-Obama whistleblowers. Several whistleblowers tried to reveal government abuses and wrongdoing during Obama's presidency, but they were either hushed, discredited, or even charged. Edward Snowden exposed the NSA's extensive monitoring activities, exposing the government's unpermitted eavesdropping on millions of Americans. He was banished rather than celebrated as a hero. Lois Lerner, an IRS officer, said she had targeted conservative organizations and postponed granting tax-exempt status to groups that disagreed with Obama's policies. The media minimized the scandal and dismissed it as exaggerated despite overwhelming evidence. The Justice Department also pursued other individuals, such as Fox News's James Rosen, for investigative reporting alone. Even Chelsea Manning, who exposed U.S. foreign policy blunders through the leak of diplomatic cables, was subject to severe legal repercussions. Obama employed the Espionage Act to stifle leaks more than any previous president. These incidents were frequently brought up by Tucker Carlson, who maintained that Obama's whistleblowers were exposing democracy's sinister underbelly rather than defending it. Tucker's take on Obama's foreign policy failures. Obama's foreign policies gave Tucker Carlson plenty of fodder to critique what he views as reckless interventionism, and he has never held back. Hailed as a humanitarian intervention, the Libyan catastrophe swiftly devolved into a nightmare, with the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi causing instability in the nation and exacerbating the European migration issue. When Obama failed to enforce his famous red line in Syria, his warning to Assad about the use of chemical weapons, it became a worldwide embarrassment and a sign of U.S. weakness. Even Obama's ostensibly strict Russia policy was rife with inconsistencies. Obama did not oppose the takeover of Crimea, even while he denounced Russian aggression. Additionally, his administration contributed to the disastrous Iran nuclear deal by providing billions of dollars in sanctions relief, while Iran persisted in its Middle East influence efforts. Although Obama was hailed as a foreign policy genius, Tucker consistently noted that his choices left a legacy of instability and unresolved conflicts. Obama's role in the Great Reset agenda. The term Great Reset has acquired popularity in recent years to describe a global movement for elite-led economic reorganization. Organizations such as the World Economic Forum advocate policies similar to those Obama supports. Through surveillance programs that normalized enormous data collecting and stricter industry rules, his presidency set the stage for growing government control. Globalist ideas blossomed under Obama as his administration backed trade agreements such as the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, which detractors claimed favored transnational firms over American workers. Additionally, he supported policies that pushed for carbon controls, digital IDs, and financial policies that matched the current social control and sustainability measures. His involvement in global governance projects after leaving the presidency and his close relationships with people like Klaus Schwab indicate that his influence never faded. Obama was more than simply the President of the United States. He was a significant figure in a broader trend toward centralized global governance, as Tucker Carlson has often cautioned. The media's shift in tone after Tucker's rise. The rise of Tucker Carlson in conservative media compelled mainstream media to reconsider their coverage of political topics. Before his ascent, the narrative was dominated by networks such as CNN and MSNBC, which frequently minimized or distorted Obama-era scandals to his advantage. However, even traditional media had to admit stories they had previously neglected, as audiences flocked to Tucker for uncensored commentary. After alternative media perpetuated the Hunter Biden laptop story, which was first written off as Russian disinformation, it became impossible to ignore. Tucker revealed things that other mainstream journalists would not cover, which helped stories about government overreach, from political weaponization to vast surveillance, gain traction. Even venerable publications like the New York Times and the Washington Post had to begin reporting on concerns they had previously minimized, such as big tech, censorship, and restrictions on free expression. In addition to challenging the leftist media, Carlson's influence made them face unpleasant realities they would have preferred to ignore. The Obama nostalgia effect versus Tucker's reality check. Obama is still adored by many liberals years after he left office, and he is frequently portrayed as a leader who brought honor back to politics. Tucker Carlson, however, continuously refutes this sentimental viewpoint by presenting empirical evidence that suggests otherwise. Income disparity increased under Obama, while the middle class dwindled and Wall Street prospered. Racial tensions increased as a result of police brutality, a problem that grew worse throughout his administration and gave rise to movements like Black Lives Matter. Despite being praised, his foreign strategy created failed states and unresolved crises in Libya and Syria. Obama's persistent persecution of journalists and whistleblowers went counter to his pledge of transparency. Even his most famous accomplishment, Obamacare, caused millions of people to have fewer options for health care and rates to increase. Tucker reminds his audience that the truth was much more nuanced and in many respects much worse than people recall, even though media outlets now present him as a time of political decency. Tucker's fight against the elite class Obama represents. Barack Obama positioned himself as an outsider from the grassroots who would challenge the elite in Washington when he first ran for president. However, he had become deeply ingrained in the very system he had previously criticized by the time he left office. Tucker Carlson has criticized Obama's transition as a symbol of global elitism on numerous occasions. Obama's post-presidential life reflects that of a corporate CEO rather than a former public servant, from taking vacations on the yachts of millionaires to landing multi-million-dollar Netflix partnerships. The distance between his words and reality is symbolized by his estate in Martha's Vineyard, which is far from the hardships faced by many Americans. In the meantime, Carlson has positioned himself as an advocate for Americans and the working class, denouncing Republican and Democratic leaders who put the interests of the elite ahead of that of ordinary people. He often reveals how Obama and his supporters' policies, such as corporate bailouts and unrestricted borders, benefit the wealthiest at the expense of the middle class. The underreported corruption of the Obama Foundation. The Obama Foundation, which was marketed as a philanthropic endeavor, has covertly evolved into a vast, opaque fundraising machine. There are significant ethical questions raised by reports that it has accepted large donations from international elites, including foreign governments. Critics contend that a large portion of the foundation's income is used as a political slush fund to support leftist causes and maintain Obama's clout even after he left office. Despite its murky financial practices, the Obama Foundation has mostly avoided criticism, unlike the Clinton Foundation, which received heavy public attention for its dubious activities. According to Tucker Carlson, former presidents frequently utilize foundations to stay relevant in politics, get around campaign financing regulations, and close lucrative agreements while posing as philanthropists. Although mainstream media praise Obama's post-presidency initiatives, few look into the true purpose of the funding. There are still concerns about whether the foundation benefits the public or only supports Obama's political goals, even as wealthy worldwide contribute millions. Obama's relationship with George Soros. Obama's close ties to billionaire financier George Soros, whose money has backed progressive organizations around the world, are suspected by many conservatives. Numerous Obama initiatives, including those about immigration, social justice, and global governance, align with Soros's goals, and he was an early backer of Obama's presidential campaign. Tucker Carlson has frequently questioned this link, claiming that international elites who wish to undermine American sovereignty were partly responsible for Obama's election. Obama has played down his connections to Soros. Still, his post-presidential involvement, especially on subjects like racial fairness and climate change, is seen by some as proof that he still shares Soros's globalist outlook. This hypothesis heightens concerns regarding the degree of foreign influence on American politics. Tucker Carlson's fiercest criticism of Obama. One of Obama's harshest detractors, Tucker Carlson, has frequently charged him with elitism, dishonesty, and deceit. His assertion that Obama was a cunning politician who widened rifts in America rather than the unifying force he purported to be was one of his most forceful criticisms. Obama's extravagant post-presidential lifestyle has also drawn criticism from Carlson, who notes that despite his talk about income disparity, he has multi-million-dollar residences in Hawaii, Martha's Vineyard, and Washington, D.C. Carlson contends that Obama is a member of the elitist establishment he formally denounced, as evidenced by his actions, which are inconsistent with his public image. Conservative mistrust of Obama is fueled by this viewpoint, which supports the notion that he never acted genuinely for the people, but rather for his influence and legacy. The mystery surrounding Obama's past. Even though Obama is among the most well-known people in contemporary history, his past is still mysterious. Some believe he is concealing something about his academic background because his Columbia University records are still sealed. His birth certificate has also been the subject of long-standing conspiracy theories, though they have mostly been debunked. Tucker Carlson and other conservatives contend, however, that Obama's willful omission of certain aspects of his past begs the issue of what he doesn't want the public to know. Even if some of these allegations are debatable, they have strengthened enduring doubts about his upbringing and influences. Obama's attempts to secure a permanent liberal majority. Barack Obama put policies into place during his presidency that were intended to shift American politics in the Democratic Party's favor. DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, one of his most well-known initiatives, gave millions of undocumented immigrants legal protections. Many of these individuals would go on to vote Democratic. Along with aggressively expanding voting rights, his administration opposed voter ID laws and promoted same-day registration, two policies that often help Democrats win elections. Another crucial tactic was redistricting, when Democratic-led states used advantageous maps to secure advantages over the long run. To further guarantee demographic changes that supported liberal voting trends, the administration also supported mass immigration policies and opposed deportation initiatives. Critics contend that these actions were intended to establish an electoral barrier that would be extremely difficult for Republicans to breach, rather than merely promoting equity. Tucker Carlson has frequently noted how these strategies set the stage for the current political struggles over immigration and voting rights. Obama's relationship with the CIA and intelligence community. Barack Obama appeared to enjoy the steadfast support of the intelligence community, in contrast to previous presidents who frequently fought with it. When he took office, intelligence organizations broadened their operations under his government, launching extensive monitoring campaigns focused on domestic and international communications. Edward Snowden's disclosure of the NSA's PRISM program raised serious civil liberties issues by exposing the government's unparalleled access to personal information. During Obama's presidency, intelligence-driven political meddling also increased, with influential people like CIA Director John Brennan helping to shape perceptions of foreign involvement. Intelligence activities started under Obama were a significant factor in the Russia inquiry, which became a pivotal controversy during the Trump administration. Tucker Carlson is among the many opponents who contend that Obama contributed to establishing an unelected security state, which has remained influential long beyond his administration. This extraordinary partnership between intelligence services and a democratic government altered American politics. The overlooked divide between Obama and the Clintons. Although Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama appeared to be on good terms, there was deep-seated animosity between their teams behind the scenes. Obama backed Clinton's 2016 campaign on paper, but many insiders think he secretly worked against her to secure his legacy by choosing a more radical successor. According to reports, Obama disassociated himself from Clinton's campaign messaging and was hesitant to support her completely. According to reports, he also dissuaded Joe Biden from running because he thought he was weaker than younger, more progressive candidates, not because he was devoted to Clinton. Clinton's supporters, meanwhile, thought Obama had abandoned her to deal with escalating scandals, such as her email affair. Some Democrats have accused Obama of not doing enough to mobilize voters after Trump's victory in 2016. According to Tucker Carlson, this split revealed the divisions inside the Democratic Party between the Clintons' traditional political apparatus and Obama's concept of progressivism. Obama's globalist agenda. Obama has continuously pushed globalist policies that some claim threaten American sovereignty, such as free trade agreements, open immigration, and climate laws. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, which conservatives lambasted for outsourcing American jobs, was introduced under his presidency. This backing of the Paris Climate Accord was also interpreted as an attempt to prioritize international concerns over domestic ones. Tucker Carlson has frequently referred to Obama as a globalist in disguise, contending that his administration aimed to transfer authority from the American people to foreign organizations. Obama's status as a pivotal role in the globalist movement is further cemented by his continued support of global governance even after he left office. Obama's silence on Biden's failures. Obama was heavily involved in Biden's election. Still, he has said nothing about Biden's political setbacks, such as the exit from Afghanistan, the border situation, and his economic difficulties. Some speculate that Obama is separating himself from Biden's presidency to preserve his legacy and prevent his name from being linked to Biden's deteriorating support ratings. According to Tucker Carlson, Obama is content to claim credit for Biden's accomplishments, but seldom stands up for him when his plans don't work. Obama's selective involvement begs the issue of whether he favors Biden or whether he only saw him as a short-term solution. The unfinished Obama agenda. Many contend that his political vision is still being realized even after Obama's presidency ended. Under the Biden administration, the fight for progressive policies, like expanding access to universal health care, enforcing environmental laws, and launching social justice campaigns, continues. Even though Obama is no longer formally in office, Tucker Carlson and others think his lasting impact will guarantee that his programs remain at the forefront of Democratic politics. This has raised worries that he is still manipulating political changes behind the scenes, and that his presidency never ended. Obama's ideological influence is still very much present in American politics, regardless of whether Biden's administration is viewed as a success. The future of Obama's influence. There are still concerns about Obama's ability to influence America's future as he continues his activism after leaving office. He is one of the most influential former presidents in history because of his impact in the media, culture, foreign affairs, and politics. Critics like Tucker Carlson caution that Obama's legacy encompasses more than just the past. It includes the country's continuous change from its pre-presidential state. Only time will tell if he will become less prominent or remain a major player in American politics. Obama's legacy and public perception. Obama continues to have a significant impact on American politics despite these scandals. Historic accomplishments during his administration included the Affordable Care Act's enactment, Osama bin Laden's murder, and the Great Recession's recovery. But his time in office was also marred by scandals, poor foreign policy decisions, and widening political rifts. Some consider his presidency a time of lost potential and government overreach, while others saw him as a transformative leader. Tucker Carlson's recent response to Obama's dirty secret only serves to rekindle discussions about his legacy, demonstrating how his administration's influence is still felt in contemporary politics.
If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon